Hello and welcome to the Klassiki podcast. I'm your host, Sam Goff. Klassiki is your window into the world of Eastern European film. Subscribers gain access to our library of classic and contemporary titles, as well as filmmaker interviews, video introductions, program notes, and much more. You can sign up for a free trial today at klassiki.online. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast app of choice, and remember you can get in touch with us at podcast@klassiki.online. In the last few weeks, the 69th edition of the London Film Festival has been rolling through the capital's cinemas, bringing a host of filmmaking talents from Eastern Europe and beyond in its wake. I headed down to the festival press circuit to speak to two directors from the region who were in town with their latest films. Just to note that these interviews were recorded on location, as it were, so the sound quality is a bit variable. Check out the links in the show description to find more material on the Klassiki Journal. First up is North Macedonia's Teona Strugar Mitevska, a shining light of Balkan filmmaking for over 20 years. Her latest film is perhaps her most ambitious yet, Mother, a punkish take on the famous and controversial figure of Mother Teresa, set over the course of 7 frenetic days in a convent in Calcutta, which had its premiere in Venice earlier this summer. I asked Teona about the cinematic allure of such a well-documented figure, working with Hollywood star Noomi Rapace to construct the character of Teresa, and how the religious leader's Balkan heritage influenced her life and work. You can read another interview we did with Teona on her previous film, 21 Days Until the End of the World, on the Klassiki Journal now. The link for that is in the show description. Teona, thanks for joining us. So, you've got this film about Mother Teresa. Obviously, we don't need to ask why you're interested in making a film about Mother Teresa. Obviously, such a huge cultural and historical figure. What I'm interested in is that you'd previously made a TV documentary series about Mother Teresa, and now you have a completely different fictional film. So what I am interested in is whether you always knew that you wanted to take it in that fictionalized direction, or whether it was making the documentary that sent you in that direction in the first place.
Strangely enough, character-wise, the documentary, the fiction is not so far from the documentary. Let me explain. So, no, I did not plan to make a film about Mother Teresa, but I did plan at one point of my life. I said I would love to make a film about a woman, historical person. Because I thought I felt there is a lack in the cinema world regarding female characters that have been important in this way or another way in our history. And not only that, I always had a sort of a problem with the way women historical characters are portrayed in cinema. So then this documentary came about. I was offered to make a film about Mother Teresa. At first, it was like, oh, what can I say that it's already not said? What can I more say than we can already not read on internet? But then I said, okay, maybe if I make a documentary about women and the role of women within the church, that could be something that I can relate to and research about and go around. So this is really how that was my primary driving force during making of the documentary, and the documentary is called Teresa and I. And during the process of it, I discovered this extremely relatable character that is Mother Teresa. So I think it was 1 year after we finished the documentary, I said to my sister, who is the producer of my films, I said to her, listen, maybe there is something there. Being able to enter into this interior world of Mother Teresa, because during the documentary we had a chance to make lots of interviews with the only people left alive who knew her, sisters who knew her. And there I discovered this strong character, sort of a general of an army, somebody I absolutely related to. And I said, this is another side that I would like to put forward. Why not? And let's demystify the saint. Let's tell a story of a woman only and see how the world will react.
And you're working with Noomi Rapace, who people will obviously be familiar with. She's described having been attracted by what she's called the punk rock nature of your approach to the figure of Mother Teresa, and also maybe the figure of Mother Teresa herself. And of course, Noomi has worked with Macedonian directors before. She worked with Goran Stilevski on his amazing film You Won't Be Alone. So what was the collaboration like with Noomi and bringing her into this particular story?
Well, Noomi is an extremely devoted. She's relentless in her way, in the way she aborts a character, so it was a true, real journey through beauty and hell. So, year and a half of going back and forwards, reviewing, rewriting, re-looking at the dialogue, trying this and that, trying to really build slowly the character that is Mother Teresa. So it was really an extremely collaborative process, extremely gratifying, and also very humbling, because as a director, sometimes you have a very precise vision. That the character of his mother was very precise based on the research I did. And then Noomi came in. So how do you incorporate the person that Noomi is and sort of build around her and build within her, so she can embody completely the character of Mother Teresa. So it was really and absolutely such a precise and intriguing process that, like, once you do it, you don't want to do it otherwise. It was, we built a full mountain, I could say.
One thing I was interested to ask you in terms of your personal relationship with the story is, Mother Teresa was Albanian originally, and you're from the kind of Albanian minority in Macedonia. And going back even to your first feature film, I Killed a Saint, which I think is maybe 24 years ago now, thinking about this question of Albanian identity, I wondered whether that had played a part in your attraction to the character, or in the way that you approached the figure of Mother Teresa. I mean, in Albania, she's held up as she's the most famous Albanian, probably of the 20th century.
Yes, she is the most famous Albanian from Macedonia of the 20th century. So no, listen, I come from such a Macedonia is such a mash pot of cultures and religions. It is my origin. So yes, I've gone back to the polemics of the I guess the multiculturalism, or the impossibility, or the non-acceptance and acceptance. It has always interested me, what it means to live together. Wow. And not being able to live together, and to live finally, to live together. So not only in How I Kill a Saint, but When the Day Had No Name actually talks also about these phenomena. So I don't, listen, we come from the same soil. I absolutely relate to her on all levels. And as much as we would like to say Macedonians, not we, Macedonians would like to say that we are very different, we are actually quite similar. So we have always lived together, and hopefully we will continue to live together.
And of course, I mean, the film is set in India, so there is already a kind of story of displacement built into the film. You know, she's a foreigner working in a strange country.
But I think the fact that she was a foreigner, or not even a foreigner,
In inverted commas, maybe.
yes, all the nuns, all the sisters at that moment were sort of imported from Europe. But the fact that she came from the Balkan gave her power to do what she did. I really thought long about it. If she did not come from the turmoil that is Balkan, she would have never managed to achieve as much as she did in the lifespan she did. I know that they're calling you that we have to.
I also took the chance to speak with Shahram Mokri. Shahram is an acclaimed Iranian director who travelled to neighbouring Tajikistan in Central Asia for his latest film, Black Rabbit, White Rabbit, which screened in competition in London. It's a poetic, enigmatic feature that weaves together several narrative strands, including the very autobiographical story of an Iranian filmmaker travelling to work in Tajikistan. With the help of our wonderful interpreter Iante Roach, whose voice you'll hear here, Shahram and I discussed the deep links between Iranian and Tajik cinema, including how jumping between the two countries can help filmmakers from both to avoid growing censorship at home. You can read a fascinating piece about the influence of Iranian cinema on Tajikistan, written by Tajik filmmaker Anisa Sabiri on the Klassiki journal, and the link for that is also in the show description. So Shahram, I was really interested in hearing about how you came to make a film in Tajikistan, how you came to work in that space, what drew you there, and then just more generally how you found the experience once you were there.
Making films in Iran has become more complex than before over the last few years. And since the Women Life Freedom movement or revolt, which began 3 years ago, there's a new issue in Iranian cinema, i.e. the hijab, the mandatory headscarf. Up to that time, we had accepted the agreement between the audience and the cinematic agreement that women would wear the headscarf in movies. Whereas in real life, obviously, that was not the case. So in films, you'd show women wearing headscarves in private settings, whereas we all knew that in Iranian, in private settings, at home and so on, no one wears a headscarf. And after this movement began, the audience wanted cinema to show the impact of this movement even in cinema. And the government instead took a very hardline stance, and de facto it's not possible to work that way. And so at the time I thought that a short-term solution might be to make films out of Iran. And the reason I chose Tajikistan is that it does have cultural similarities and links with Iran, but it's not Iran at the same time.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about that. So obviously, Tajik and Iranian Farsi are very similar languages, as I understand it, and there is a long tradition, particularly of Iranian influence on Tajik cinema for that reason. So in the post-Soviet period, directors like Muhsin Makhmalbaf went to Tajikistan, made films that proved very influential for Tajik films. So did you feel that you were somehow stepping into that tradition in going to Tajikistan to make this film?
Absolutely, we've got these cultural links and similarities, also in music, also in poetry, and of course in cinema. And of course, I was well aware of Mohsen Makhmalbaf's work in Tajikistan in the past, and interestingly, many of the people who helped me make this film had actually worked with Mohsen Makhmalbaf all those years ago. Of course, over the last few years, Tajik film production has gone more and more towards television, but there's a big film institution called Tajik Film, which is doing its utmost to still produce films
So one of the several kind of narrative strands in the film concerns an Iranian director going to Tajikistan. In the film, it's to remake a classic Iranian film in Tajikistan. But I wondered how much of a self-portrait about your own situation you intended with that.
Yes, of course, the mise en scène of the film is very close to my own situation, and that makes it, yeah, even closer to me, even closer to home. And in fact, for the filmmaker making the film, in the film, has my same name, Shahram. We only ever see him in long shots, but nonetheless, I chose someone who, from a certain distance, could look like me. Now, of course, when I'm talking of a meta film, I never know how many layers I can keep adding. So it's like this open door. So what I do is I place myself in it. So at some point, I draw a line between myself and the film.
Well, I'll leave it to viewers to work out where that line is then. You mentioned their long takes. One thing that's striking about the film and your work with your cinematographer, Mitevska, is very long, carefully choreographed takes. I mean, what was the thinking behind that?
I always worked with long takes ever since my, or long shots rather, my beginnings as a university student. And in fact, my first feature film in 2013, Fish and Cat, was a 2-hour long take. And in fact, long takes are at the heart of my 4 feature films to date also. And I think maybe this is because that when I was a student of cinema, we were moving from analog to digital cameras, and maybe it had to do with reflection on the new possibilities inherent in digital cameras. Ever since university, I always had this quote by the famous painter MC Escher in my mind, who said that there's certain things you can do only in poetry and in painting. And so maybe I've ever since been trying to challenge this idea and to prove that actually maybe, or to try and discover if you can achieve the same effect, the same technique, even in cinema.
I'm interested, you're working with a number of great Iranian actors, but also with a lot of Tajik actors. And as you described previously, there's a great deal of similarity and shared tradition, but also it's not Iran, and that was part of the reasoning for you. So I wondered whether there was something in particular that your Tajik collaborators brought to you that you found fresh or interesting or even challenging.
You know, I've thought about this question a great deal, and I wonder whether perhaps it might be easier to work in a completely foreign language, because if the language is entirely foreign, then maybe it's easier to understand then maybe you don't really know where the difficulties are. In the sense that if you're a total stranger, you've got to trust. Whereas the problem is that when you understand certain things, but you don't understand others, it's very difficult to pinpoint problems. For instance, there's one word which in Tajik Persian means in Iranian version means to kill, and in Tajik Persian means to distress, to make someone angry. Yeah, to make someone angry. And so that's very confusing.
And the narrative structure of the film is one where there are several separate stories that gradually become more and more interwoven, interlocking. I just wondered what the appeal and also the challenge was in writing and kind of constructing that particular type of narrative.
I always find writing the script the most challenging and get part of making a film, and especially trying to construct this puzzle with all these different narratives. Whilst writing, I always start by the architecture of the entire script, the structure, making sure that works, and then when I do have the structure, slowly I start inserting the different stories and seeing sort of what works together. And I've got a co-writer, and we always write together. We basically keep swapping different versions of the script and working on and improving it. And so it's a very long process, but when we reach an end, we're usually happy with it. But I think for me, the secret, it really is making sure that the structure works, and then inserting the different narratives and making sure that they are somehow, that they are harmonious.
And one last question. I wonder what you think about this, whether this might become a new trend of Iranian filmmakers traveling to Tajikistan to work, because, I mean, you've obviously laid out there the push factor, if you like, from Iran towards Tajikistan. Of course, filmmakers in Tajikistan have also been struggling increasingly with government pressure. So I wonder whether you see this as like an ongoing potential area for collaboration, or whether it's maybe more of a flash in the pan.
Absolutely, and I'm well aware that between Tajik filmmakers and the entire state apparatus, the bureaucracy that you need to deal with when making a film, the pressures are such that it's very similar to our situation in Iran, in the sense that we both are grappling with censorship, but with quite different kinds of censorship and different levels of censorship. And I'm wondering whether maybe as filmmakers we need to really be like rivers and find a way ahead whenever we meet a stone that bars our way. And so I wonder if maybe for Iranian and Tajik filmmakers, the way to find the flow of our rivers and overcome these stones, or rather, go the other way around the stone, has to do with maybe working in one other's country. Well, for instance, last year, a number of the people who worked on my film in Tajikistan came and shot a part of one of their films inside Iran. And obviously, we helped them as much as we could. And so really, maybe for us, it is the only way forward to help each other and to film in one another's country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.